Yep. Hey, thank you, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of council of May 3rd. It being 7:01 on my computer, we'll call the meeting to order. Council, we've got an agenda in front of us. I have had a request to move item 9.1 to follow our delegation so that we can keep the auditors only minimum amount of time. And so moved as amended. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? I should mention to Councillor Rowe sends her regrets. She cannot be here tonight. So Council, we can move to delegations, and I guess we have Mr. Vanderhurst and Vanderhorst, I know better, and leave Mr. Reed with us. And of course, we have Mr. Douglas, who's had a couple of things to do with this topic.
Mr. Vanderhorst and Mr. Reed are now able to unmute their microphones and use their cameras.
There. Is that Corey?
Good evening. I am able to unmute, but I am not able to turn my camera on for some reason. Bear with me. Here we go. Thank you.
There, you should be able to.
There we go. That looks better. Thank
Great.
you. Technical. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and for inviting us here to speak to council tonight. I do have a presentation. I'm just gonna pop it up on the screen here. So I'm hoping you are able to see the first cover slide with it. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, a big thank you to David and Bev and the finance team at the district this year for going through the audit process with us, especially this year, some extra lifting on their part as there was a change in audit standards and more work to be done. So I do have a fairly brief presentation to go through. I'll take you through some highlights of the financial statements for 2022, a little bit about the audit and the audit process, and then I'll wrap up with coming back into the numbers and some financial analysis. So a reminder that this financial statements that you have in your package and what I'll be going through is presented on a consolidated basis. So throughout the year, you're getting presentations from the finance team that might be broken up into general fund, or this is a capital project, but we're putting everything together on these financial statements. The general, the sanitary sewer, the capital. There is also the Sunshine Coast Community Forest numbers, which are recorded at their net investment value in the financial statements of the district. So starting with the statement of financial position, at the end of December of 2022, the district had cash and investments of $27.4 million, so up almost $5 million from the prior year. Total financial assets of $32.6 million, and debt being carried at $3.4 million, and total liabilities of $16.7 million. So if you subtract the total liabilities at the end of the year from the total financial assets, you get what we call the net financial asset position of $15.9 million. So that has increased by about $2 million year over year. The tangible capital assets being managed by the district have also increased to $156 million. Again, that is the book cost of those assets purchased and built over time, and then depreciated to reflect the usage over the years. The final number on this slide is the accumulated surplus number of $172.2 million. I will get into what's in that number in a future slide. Looking then at the operations, what we used to call the income statement for the fiscal 2022, total revenues for the year were $26.2 million. an increase from the 25.8 in 2021. Some significant areas of increase, we saw investment income doing well as interest rates were rising, so that you're able to earn a good rate of return on your investments. Total expenses of $20.9 million for 2022, so up from the prior year as we expect to see increases in inflation and wage costs, but also under budget is important to note, by about $2 million. So on an accounting basis, there is an annual surplus of $5.2 million. But I say it's accounting surplus because that doesn't include capital spending through the year, debt repayment, any new debt. So we like to go to the cash flow statement next. This is more representative of how you're thinking when you're looking at budget and what's actually going to be going on through the year. So on the cash flow statement at the district, there's almost $7.3 million of cash inflows in 2022. $6.5 million of tangible capital asset spending, net of some proceeds on some disposals. $3.5 million was moved out of investment balances and into the main bank accounts to be used for various projects. There's $1.4 million of new debt and $956,000 of debt being repaid on schedule. So the main bank accounts had net cash inflow of $4.8 million. However, it's important to note 3.5 in the middle of the slide there, $3.5 million of that was the money moved from investments into the bank accounts. So really more like a 1.2, 1.3 if you look at the increase, if you look at the cash and investments together. I promise I tell you what's in that accumulated surplus number of 172,000. The big number at the top is what we call the equity in the tangible capital assets. So it's 152 million. It has increased year over year. That's the value of the physical assets and the infrastructure that the district is managing minus the debt. So it's not a cash balance. It's what you can touch and the debt that you have to be paid down. The district has $6 million in statutory reserves. In addition, the value of the investment in the community forest is $2.3 million. So that represents the retained earnings of the community forest entity. General government has a surplus of $7.5 million and sewer fund has a surplus of $3.8 million. And both of those have minor increases year over year. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit, talk about the audit process. Again, a big thank you to your finance department and staff all through the district. We don't just talk to finance. We're happy to be providing what we call an unqualified audit opinion. That is auditor speak for a clean audit opinion. We are satisfied that the financial statements that you have in your package are prepared appropriately in all material respects in accordance with public sector accounting standards, which is what local government should be reporting under. We're ready to sign the report and hand over the final audit report after council approval here tonight. I do appreciate the amendment to move the approval up. That's very much appreciated. And the minor outstanding matters were all wrapped up this morning, just doing the usual cleanup stuff that we do on the final day. When we're doing our audits, we look at controls at the district to ensure that you're getting accurate reporting. We look at how are they designed, how are they implemented, are they safeguarding cash and other assets, are you getting those accurate financial reporting. And when we do our audit, we sample transactions. We don't look at everything. That's just not cost effective in the context of an audit. To drive our audit testing, and a key number for our audit is this materiality number of $1 million. So we're calculating that as roughly 4% of your annual revenues. And what that means is we're looking at every transaction that's larger than $1 million. Usually that's large grants, large capital projects. And then underneath that dollar value, sample. If we found anything that we disagreed with staff on, and it's larger than $1 million, I can't give you a clean audit opinion. But if there's something that we disagree on and is under that amount, I still could give you a clean audit opinion. Under the engagement status bullet there, we didn't find any unusual transactions, any irregularities impacting the financial statements. We are not specifically looking for fraud in the context of a financial statement audit, but if something came up in the audit, I would be required to report it to council. So I don't have anything to report to council in that respect, so that's a good thing. Again, a big thank you to management and staff at the district. I do have to confirm that MMP as an audit firm is independent of the district. We didn't do any other work, any other projects from January 1st, 2022, all the way through to today. So that means I can give you an independent audit opinion. And thank you. Actually, the financial analysis bit was cut out, so I will wrap up there. I'm happy to answer any questions. There's an error on my first slide, but we'll wrap up there. Thank you.
Auditor never admits there's an error on the first slide.
So we're human.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Vanderhorst. Councillor Inkster, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Corey, for presenting. I just wanted to ask you, you presented on one of the first slides, the debt outstanding with the District of Sechelt. Do you know the amount by which we have the ability to borrow to in terms of millions of dollars?
Thank you, Councillor. It's a good question. I would actually defer to staff on where your borrowing limit is.
Mr. Douglas, want to wade in?
Certainly. Thank you for the question. Through the chair, it would depend on what types of borrowing we took on. So if we took on short or long term or a mix, right? But if it were all long term, we would be probably higher than $50 million, between 55 and 57.
50 million.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're borrowing approximately 5% of our ability to borrow.
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, it's yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It has come down through the chair from where it had been.
Yeah.
So yes, we're definitely working on the debt.
And we have a couple of pieces that are falling off soon or have fallen off.
Yeah, there was one last year that came off, and we're adding two this year.
Yeah.
To that, to the chair.
Thank you. I always think the public needs to know that we're in a fairly decent financial position in terms of borrowing.
Good points. Council, anything else for the auditors on this part of the conversation? Maybe you're satisfied with the cutoff that we've accrued, Mr. Vanderhorst, that we've accrued the everything up to the end of December?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we are very satisfied. We looked through January, February, and into March to make sure that everything's coming in on the payables and receivable side. And as when we look at the finance department and the processes you have in place, you're capturing all those appropriate accruals.
Thank you. Okay. I think then we can, unless there's anything else, we can move to item 9.1, and this is on pages 48 to 96. I'm sure what everybody in the audience is here for, the audited financial statements. Who would like to lead the, Mr. Douglas, are you gonna take the lead first, or are you gonna let? Okay. Vanderhorst, we'll stay with you. Whoops.
Sorry, no, Beverly, I think is gonna.
Oh, Bev, you're pointing, yes,
Sorry.
Ms. Smith.
Thank you. I didn't prepare a presentation because I did let Mr. Vanderhorst go ahead and do that for the audit. So I'm happy to answer any questions on my report.
Terrific. Do you want to take your own version, Ms. Smith, and explain at the top of page 49 or near the top? You know, I think this is something I have given staff a heads up that I might ask something about this. We report an operating surplus, but then we turn around and we still need to increase our taxes. So without getting into too much specifics, and I realize our auditors commented a bit on this, but is there anything you could add, Ms. Smith?
Sure. Yeah. So our operating surplus for 2022 was just over 5.2 million. And that includes, I do have a note in my report that there's 1,126,402 to general surplus, and then an additional 465,000 to sewer surplus. And the remaining balance is both capital and dedicated reserve transfers. So it isn't just all surplus. The cash surplus accumulated to about 1.5 million in 2022.
Douglas, please.
Yeah, if I can just try and answer a question there. So just because we had a surplus for several reasons. One, we had our costs were, we underspent some of our costs and operations. And I know one revenue source came in quite a bit higher than we budgeted, which was interest on investments, which created a cash surplus just over $1 million. So that would be what we would call, cash surplus versus an overall surplus of 5.2 million or whatever that number was. I can't remember at the top of my head. And similar to that in the sewer where, we didn't spend operationally as much as we had budgeted, but these are these things happen within a year, and it can be anything from, if somebody leaves and there's savings in wages, if we don't buy as much chemical as we expected to buy, these will all contribute to the cash surplus that we have. But we don't go about our business to necessarily have a surplus. We spend, we budget what we are calculated that we need. And, a cash surplus is really a bonus at the end. We are spending 250,000 of that into 2023 of that surplus. So although we're talking about, an over $1 million surplus, we are utilizing some of that in 2023.
Great. Councillor Shepherd, please.
To the chair, just to, I guess, to finance, to point out or try and understand, there's a general trend from 2020 of declining surpluses though. And it's something for council to remember for the budget coming up in 2024. Thank you.
Declining yes. Yeah, I think that's fair. And compared to budget, the reason we got a surplus this year is that really our expenses were quite a bit lower than we had anticipated a year ago.
And
And
interest.
the
interest was-
interest rates going.
The interest was probably 500 to 600 of that over what we had budgeted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the remainder, which
Right.
is probably another 500 or 600 is expenses that we had savings in.
Very good. Okay, so we are looking for also motions. I'll make sure I don't include anybody. We have a recommendation from staff on page 48. We'll move Councillor Toth, seconded Councillor Inkster. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Thank you, Ms. Smith. And you're there, you're everywhere in this room. And thanks to the finance team and of course to our hardworking auditors who get to go home unless you like to stay and listen to the rest of this. All right, thank you both. I'll take that as a no. Very good. Council, we then move on to the meeting minutes from this page 4. Start with. Errors, omissions, adjustments, corrections, etc. Councillor McLaughlin, please.
Yes, through the chair. I was wondering, on page 9, under the Wakefield Lift Station project, if we could mention under the first bullet that, because it was a large increase in funding, says it's due to increased costs of materials and labor throughout the industry. But I think it's also due to a large increase in sizing to meet long-term build out of the community. I just thought it'd be nice to report that so the community has some detail on that and understands that the cost is also relating to that.
Okay, I think we've got that in the conversation now. I don't remember if it was in terms of the minute, because I agree with the premise, but these are minutes. So if it was said last time, then it could be in the minutes.
Yeah.
I'm looking for
I think it was
Okay.
quite a point that Darren brought up and I discussed as well. And it wasn't really so much in the report, so I thought it was important to have in the minutes that it was
Yep.
discussed.
Okay. Interesting.
I understand what Councillor McLaughlin is mentioning, and well, there was some discussion, but when we make changes to these minutes to indicate the sizing, I think what we need to say why.
But was
Yeah.
this in terms of the meeting? For the moment, just. this
It
procedure?
was, but there was, the sizing was larger because we're planning, I mean, we're
Yeah,
planning for the
which-
future, right? Yeah, so,
Perhaps, can I just,
Yeah.
in terms of expediting this, we often will have a motion accepting the minutes and then in matters arising in discussion. Councilor McLaughlin, your comments can be made or can be included in this meeting's minute.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Councillor Bell.
Yes, through the chair, I'm on page 11, it's just a little one, but 10.1 on the councilor's report. Councillor Bell was not at the Coast Ferry Advisory Committee, at least not that I remember. But perhaps we could, was I there, Darren? Or Councillor Inkster, do you remember?
Now, now,
Okay.
order.
Thank you, but I was not there in person, actually. So if
Okay.
we could just remove that. Thank you.
What were you at? Because you did say something. What were you at? What, do you remember what you were at? Okay, perhaps, our corporate officer, please.
Your worship, we could certainly go back and
Yeah.
listen to the recording and
Yeah.
clarify that point.
Okay, great. We'll accept that as a friendly clarification
Yeah.
based on the YouTube video. Councilor
Yes, through
McLaughlin.
the chair. And I think where we all were was at the AVICC conference. And so also my comments reported that I went to a Nanaimo sewage treatment plant facility tour, but that's because I happened to be at the AVICC conference. So if we could just add that. Or,
Oh, at the end of that sentence,
well,
as part of the
yeah.
AVICC
Yeah.
conference. Okay. I think that's fine. Okay. So we got a couple of amendments, so I think staff has it and YouTube world has it, so we can take a motion as amended. Seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We then go to page 14, the minutes of the extensive parcel tax review panel meeting. Councillor Shepherd, like to move adoption of these minutes?
To the chair, I'd like to move adoption of the minutes.
Thank you. Seconder? I'll second. All in favor? Carried. There. Guess that's it. Right. Okay, we then have, now we get into some more exciting stuff with the financials. And I believe is Smith coming back for this or you're doing? Mr. Douglas. Where's yours? Item 7 points.
Sorry, your worship. There was one other item for business arising.
Yes.
And forgive the lateness of this response, but at the March 15th, 2023 regular council meeting, staff had were asked to confirm a point which was included on the March 1st regular council meeting minutes with respect to the fourth bullet on page 7 of 9 regarding item 9.3, development permit for 5981 Seashell Inlet Road, Telus Marina. Staff have confirmed with the applicant that the number of boat trips departing from the Telus Marina to transport guests to and from the Telus camp location is estimated at 2 to 4 per week, not per day, which had been initially included. The applicant did note that it is possible that 2 to 4 boat trips per day may be needed to transport supplies and staff to the camp when it is in operation.
That's for our information in response to the question we raised back in March. Okay. Trigger any questions, council, for now? Great, thank you. Corporate Officer Polson. Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is my report for the 2023 to 2027 consolidated financial plan for bylaw number 618-2023. This is a same report that was presented last week at Committee of the Whole and goes through the regulations about timing. And so we have to have our 5-year financial plan approved by May 15th in any year. And the plan right now is next Wednesday, we'll have a council meeting and we'll do the final adoption of that meeting. So we should meet that deadline. And further, the report goes through and includes information that Committee of the Whole is recommended to council to include into the budget and then into the 5-year financial plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, we've been at this with budgets and first financials for last year. So much of this should come as no surprise. Any questions that you have for Mr. Douglas? Not? So certainly entertain a motion. Or this is, yes, this we have to do first to move or to move, well, we can get it. Yes. So this is a resolution that we proceed to give 3 readings. Okay. Acknowledge, which I'll take as a second. Discussion. Okay, all in favor of that? Which case, then we get to go to the bylaw, which I believe is on page 19. And I would welcome a resolution to give first reading to this bylaw number 618-2023. Moved, seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of first reading? Carried. And second reading, if it suits you. Motion, please. Councillor Bell, seconded. Councillor Shepherd. All in favor? Carried. And third reading. Sure. Okay. Second. There. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Douglas. Now you want to take us on to page 25 and talk about tax rate.
Certainly, Your Worship. This is my report to the 2023 tax rate bylaw number 617-2013. We are looking for first, second, and third reading on this bylaw. The tax rates included in this bylaw match what council has approved through the 2023 budget process. We've done testing through our system, and so we've taken the assessments that have been downloaded from BC Assessment. We've applied these tax rates, and they bring in the revenues that we anticipated. So these would be our tax rates for 2023. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I just have a little comment. It's
On page,
on page 26. Minor, but I think it's important. Under sustainability plan implications, we have sub goal 1. The dot there says promotes the consideration of financial, social, and economic impacts of any finance decision. I know it's the finance department, but I think they're a little heavy on the financial aspects. It should be financial, social, and environmental. Not economic. Sorry.
yeah, so this is, this is not a part of what we're voting on. This comes, I
Just the
believe, from
report.
our sustainability
Yeah,
plan.
that's just quoted
Right.
wrong. Yeah.
So, is it quoted wrong?
Yeah,
Or sustainability
could be environmental.
should be?
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of the motion, it's, we need to, I guess for maybe staff could clarify that for the future, but you're not worried about the substance
No,
of the
we
motion.
have to, yeah,
Right.
move along with that.
Can I clarify, in this, we are voting to approve the various tax mill rates for the different sections, the regional district, and even though those are just given to you to do the arithmetic, as it were.
Yeah, this is the one we've carried in all our bylaws over the years. So we just continue to carry them forward.
Hey, I'll entertain a motion for first reading. Can I do that? You want to? Okay, we're gonna go straight to that. So Councillor Inkster is looking quizzical.
Yeah, so that change will be made is what we're hearing in the documentation. That change will be made.
It's not what we're voting on,
Okay.
so I think staff have heard it. They'll go
Okay.
back and verify what our current plan says to make
Okay.
sure it's accurate, and the
Okay.
staff will report back to us.
Okay, I mean, it's just this is not creating to see something like that, make the correction.
Yep.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see it as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'd like both words in. If one is, whichever one is in, I'd like the other one in.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor of first reading? Carried. And same thing. Get good at this, folks. Councillor Shepherd and Bell move in second. All in favor of second reading? Councillors Inkster and McLaughlin move third reading?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, aren't you?
Nope.
Okay,
Yep.
I'll do.
Yeah. You gotta get somebody else.
Okay.
Tax rates are uncomfortable to me, so you need to get some.
All right.
I'm supportive, but yeah.
Okay, all in favor of third reading? Carried. Then go to septic disposal fees on page 31. Anything you would like to comment on, Mr. Douglas?
My report reflects the septic disposal fee increases for 2023. It's for amendment bylaw number 483-6, 2023. We're looking for a first, second, and third reading. This increase matches the increase to sewer fees within the district. Thank you.
Right, because this
As
is,
a percentage.
this is the septic handling, and so both of them went up by the same percentage.
That's correct, yes.
Any questions about that? Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you through the chair. Can you explain on page 32, item 2 in the table, it says refund to property owners with permitted holding tanks.
Yes, we have very few properties. If I go off my memory, there may be, it's less than 5, that instead of having a septic system, they have a holding tank. And so the majority of that holding tank is actually water, not solids or so. The fees are really dedicated to the treatment of the solids side. And so what happens with the holding tank is they pay up front the full amount and then we refund them. I'm going to say close to 90% or more, because there's very little that we're treating out of that. From a solids to liquids perspective.
Okay, nice to know. Also, I just wanted to comment, I was quoting one of the former counselors, Eric Scott. He said in 2020 that we cannot subsidize the entire Sunshine Coast to manage septic. And that year they increased the septic fees 122%. I know we're moving towards replacing our septic facility. I know this year we have decided this, but I think just a little heads up moving forward, we might have to reassess this quite seriously next year to get some money for moving forward with the new facility.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Douglas, I mean, there is some money being accumulated.
Very little, yes.
Great. Okay. All right, Councilor Inkster, I see your microphone on. Okay, any other discussion? So then entertain a motion for first reading. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried, second reading. Councilor Inkster, thank you. Seconded, all in favor of second reading and third reading. Seconded, Councilor Toth. All in favor of third reading. Thank you. And the sewer user fees.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is my report for sewer user fee increases for amendment bylaw number 426-18, 2013. And this is what we have been talking about through the budget process, a 6.65% increase to user fees. That'd be both for residential and commercial through the district of Sechelt. Once again, these fees have been tested through our system, and the fees that we are expecting to come in would be coming in with this rate increase. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilor Inkster.
When we look at these fees and our annual increases, it's near about 7%. What I would love to know, if in fact staff can find out and provide us with in the future, is to find out, as an example, what Paul River is charging. As an example, they're going through a new sewage system, sewage plant construction.
Yep.
With the alternative not working based on the viability of a local business. So it would be interesting to hear what their fees are. They looked at our plant a number of years ago and worked very hard over a number of years on their system and a new plant. So it would be good to hear what they're doing so that we have that comparison of a coastal community about our size.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yep. That's always good to know. Can I, and if I may, on page 38, we've got the Schedule A. And I must confess, I have obviously seen these in years gone by, but do we have a rooming house? And while I'm on perhaps more significantly, how do we assess number 11 at the bottom based on how many employees? Is there anything on an administrative level, how do we?
Yeah, I believe that's, sorry, through the
Yeah.
chair. I believe that's through our business licensing, yeah. You bet.
Yeah. got
And
there.
do we have a rooming house? I'm not positive.
Oh. There's no good comment that I can make to follow on that. Okay, anything else? Councillor McLaughlin.
Sure, yeah, on that point, I would like to know if the zoning permits a rooming house. I know the previous zoning bylaw did not, as far as I understand it.
Mr. Allen? Maybe I could shortcut this. Do you happen to know if we charge anybody based on a rooming house rate?
Off the top of my head, I don't. But I don't think we know. We don't, if we don't, then the question is, we don't have it.
But
Yeah,
we could
But
update
I
it
think
for
that's
next
something
year.
we would want to get back to you. Because I don't think we
Yeah,
have
I
an
think-
answer here.
Okay, we'll figure that out.
And just another comment on it, I'm just questioning whether we should charge additional for STRs. Because we'll know where our STRs now are, and it's a possibility to charge them.
For next. Yeah, yeah.
So if you're, I'm gonna go off the top of my head here, if you're a type 1 or 2, then you get double sewer charges for that residence. Because there's a house and a suite, or a house and a secondary. And then, but type 1, or type 3, I think that if it's just the house, then it's just one charge.
Okay, so that's something to contemplate for next year. When we got data. I don't know that it'd be worth it, but we can certainly look at it.
something else through the chair. I know in Calgary, they base sewer charges based on your water charges. So even if you water a lawn, you're paying sewer charges on that. And that's a water conservation measure. So again, something to think about.
Thank you. Mr. Allen.
You, through the chair. The zoning bylaw, just to confirm, uses a more modern term, community care facility. Community care facility may be permitted in an institutional zone or a civic and cultural zone, but rooming house itself is.
Oh,
is
you're
not.
talking about now,
Yeah.
back to the, what is a rooming house?
Yes.
Okay, community care.
Facility.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, council, this is before us for 3 readings unless anybody wants to. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for first. Seconded. Any discussion, all in favor of first. Motion to give second reading to this bylaw. Oops, bylaw 42618, 2023, moved and seconded. In favor of second. And third reading, motion seconded. And all in favor. Carried. Oh, that was pretty easy, Mr. Douglas.
Yes, it was. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks again for.
Your worship, if council would like the point of clarification confirmed at this time, I can provide the answer with respect to the environment versus economic term.
All right,
The integrated community sustainability plan. Indeed, section 7 subsection 1 does refer to environmental factors and not economic.
Okay.
So it will be noted.
correct. Great. Thank you. Council, we go to page 40, and this is the zoning amendment bylaw for first reading on 5535 Shorncliffe, just over there. We have Mr. Hall. You got your report. Anything you want to add or?
Sure, thank you,
Yeah.
council. Yeah, just one thing to note in the as we move from permission to proceed, given at the end of last year to now. Originally, this development has always been a market rental development. The applicants have now proposed, as you'll note in the report, to make 10% of the units as a below market affordable housing. So that would be 10% of the units at 30% of the median income secured for 15 years. After the 15-year period, then they would become market rental again. But so ultimately, it's still 100% rental for the lifetime of the building. But there is now a community amenity contribution component in the form of 10% of the units as below market housing, and we would secure that through a housing agreement. And also potentially when we bring the bylaw back for second reading, look to employ the residential tenure zoning power that local governments now have just to allow us to regulate that as a rental only building as part of the zoning. And similar to other rezoning applications, the applicant will be looking into rainwater harvesting and greywater reuse within their development to see what can and cannot be done for their proposal. And we've, there's a few options to look at there. So we'll be interested to hear what comes back from there. Otherwise, we have the OCP and zoning amendment bylaws ready for first reading, and then we'll do another round of referrals. The applicants have already hosted their public information meeting, so that piece has been completed.
Right. Okay, great. Yes, thanks. Thank you. Council, so we've got recommendations from staff. Maybe procedurally, I'll ask if you would like to move these and then we can have discussion. If you're not ready,
Yeah.
we can.
I would like to move to the
Please.
chair rejection of this application.
Okay. Is there a seconder for, so to reject the. Oh, I see where, yes. Thank you. Option 2 on the next page, yeah. Okay, is there a seconder for rejection, to reject it outright? Okay, take that as, no, not supported. Council, Councillor Shepherd.
Can I move to adopt recommendations 1 to 5?
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Bell. Okay, now discussion. Councillor McLaughlin,
Yes, thank
please.
you. Since I didn't get a chance through the chair to speak to my concerns about this application.
Can I just point out, without a seconder, there's no discussion. So that's why I moved
Oh.
on. So now you
Oh, you need a
certainly,
second?
yes, you-
Anybody gonna, well, somebody will
They-
second this. so-
no, there's no seconder for you, the rejection motion.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. So now,
Right.
please go ahead.
Um. And it's in the report. For instance, I did attend the open house. Another counselor was just leaving. And while I brought one friend and there were no other people coming to the open house during the whole time. So I don't feel there really was adequate consultation. And not really an effective open house. Also, there was no presentation. There were some drawings and I noticed with this submission, there's no drawings that show the extent and some of the issues regarding this project that, I think would be worth seeing, since often applications do come with a lot of very detailed drawings and site plans. There was no sustainability checklist, which I think for a pre-application is basically required. I don't see anything like that. So there's no review of that. So I think, we should get that before we even consider adopting it for first reading. I mean, the planning department says the OCP is probably going to be redone. We're going to look at more intensity of housing in the village area. Perhaps we will, perhaps we won't. I think that is a bit of an assumption that we are going to push that direction. Because myself as a planner, registered planner for 30 years, I look at this area and also residing in the village as not so much a multifamily potential area, but also mostly as a social amenity service kind of area. For instance, they didn't even label St. Hilda's Church, which is beside the proposed site. Shoring Cliff, a school, so many social services there that I think especially in this case, the project would require a lot of blasting. It's very steep rocky site, would require a lot of blasting. Rock blasting would be extremely disturbing to Green Court as well. And also it could be problematic for Rockwood Center. So while some of the objectives are, something people support, I think the reality of this particular application in this particular situation, I don't think it is the right time to move forward with a rezoning or a OCP change on this. There's just so many vulnerable people and so many social amenities there that a school of elementary kids, I mean, it's just not appropriate in my mind.
Thank you.
Let me just see if there's a few more things.
Take a moment. Is there anybody else got anything you want to say? Councillor Engstrom.
So I mean, there's a couple of things. I'm not hearing, and the depth of the report and the thickness of the report does not give me these answers. I would want to ask, is there blasting? I know that we know the topography there, it's rock based on the hill. So we need to start asking those questions. We have a community care facility right next to the proposal that hasn't been mentioned. So we have to be really get on top of that, because there will be blowback from the community if we don't talk about those things. We need to make sure. That's just on that issue. I once again, I'm not seeing rental rates on this. It's just there's not enough information. And I'm not seeing drawings, the look of the building. Is the roof flat? Is it peaked? What kind of building materials, cladding will they use in the exterior? It's important that we provide affordable housing. And this is a rental version of that, but we don't know what the rates are. And we don't know how the buildings will look in our downtown core.
So I'll take a run at a couple of things. The affordable is a formula that is, I think, generally accepted based on incomes. So 30% of your income up to a certain threshold. So that will move based on, when this if and when this project's built. But I am curious in terms of our process, things like the drawings and stuff, would we expect to get updated drawings in at second reading? For example, please, Mr. Allen. Except that your microphone is flashing instead of staying on.
No,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
here we are, here we are. Just a couple of points of clarification that may benefit council. The permission to proceed application was received by council in September of 2022, which included many items, including the checklist, design elements, and so on and so forth. The information meeting. So albeit that was previous council, but it's on the books. It is an existing ongoing application. So we do have that information, has been shared, made public. The intent of first reading really is to introduce this. It's now officially a bylaw amendment. Whereas previous it was, okay, let's receive this, let's talk about this, have the applicant do early consultation. So most certainly tonight is not the point for final decision. It's for council to consider, do we want to entertain this? And then items like drawings, rental rates, etc., continue to evolve and will be presented back to council where appropriate. Additional information meeting could take place if deemed suitable by council, but there's still a long ways to go yet. And I just wanted to clarify that in terms of process. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think that's, yeah, I agree with that, Councilor Lester.
Just to clarify through you and through the public process in front of us here, how many opportunities will we have to look at this particular proposal and to perhaps make amendments, send them back to look at some pieces and or say no? Three more opportunities? Is that what?
Second reading, third reading, in theory.
Well, we tend to group some of them, so,
But
yeah,
we don't have to. That's up to us.
yeah.
I see Mr. Hall.
Yeah, and one thing for council to consider too, we have done occasionally in the past is at the rezoning level. Normally, we wouldn't get into development permit level drawings, but council could consider as a condition of adoption of the OCP and zoning amendment bylaws that a DEP development permit is either approved or conditionally approved at that time. So by, after third reading, we could get into,
So
development
there are
permit
some other
application
potential.
if council really wants to get into more detailed drawings at that stage too, but it also works to separate out zoning and development permit as
Great.
well.
Thank you. So there's several. How about we go with there, or at least a few opportunities to that. Okay, we'll go to Councillor Toth.
Thank you. And I think my question's been answered, but I just want to check in that as we move forward, we're going to have development permit area 5 and 7 are going to need approval. And I think I heard the drawings are going to come forward as part of that process, regardless of where the zoning amendment is. I just wanted to confirm that those would come through that development permit process.
Let's take that to staff. See a nod from.
Yes, the development permit area 5 and 7, because of the scale of the project, would definitely come back to council as part of.
And that would be, well, maybe a simpler question. When would we see an updated set of drawings? And then ordinary process would be, or?
I guess again, that kind of goes back to my point. If council wants to get into the development permit before adoption of the rezoning, then they could certainly deal with that later in the rezoning process or soon after adoption of the zoning bylaw. That I would put that back to council to see if they want to make the development permit consideration part of the rezoning.
Okay. Okay, thanks for now. Councillor Bell and then Councillor McLaughlin.
This one, through the chair. One of the things, just a point of clarification that was brought up earlier around the blasting, just that whether that is in fact considered in any of this documents, that would, I'd like to find out the answer on that, and it may already be in the documents, but is there something at this point in time that talks about any blasting that you're aware of?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. I know the applicant does have a representative in the room if council wish to hear from them. Otherwise, yeah, off the top of my head, I'm not aware of
Yes. Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, hi. Hi. Sure, if you would.
Honorable Mayor and Council,
Hi.
thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, just a little bit about my background. I am a civil engineer specializing in geotech and land use. So this is my background. As Generous Properties, we develop, sustainable communities throughout the Lower Mainland, in the Okanagan, and we are sort of coming into Sunshine Coast as well. I'm actually the engineer of record on the Powell River, I guess their waste facility, sorry, their transfer facility, how they're redoing it. So, I was actually going with my kids out to there, and on the way back, we saw this property and sort of fell in love with it. And that's where we kind of got the idea to do a rental development here. And in this development, just to answer some of your questions, we did, obviously, we did commission a geotechnical report. There are, there's certainly bedrock in certain locations, but a lot of the property does have, up to, the test pits that we carried out, they've got up to 3 meters of pit run type sand and gravel. And the way we've designed this whole development, it's unfortunate the drawings aren't part of this package because we have a pretty comprehensive set of drawings that we did present at the public information meeting. And then even at the public information meeting, we didn't have a video presentation, but we were there personally doing a very detailed talk to anyone that came through. We went through all the steps of notifications, but with respect to the actual design itself, we've tried to minimize cut and fill. We've tried to design it with the topography. We had about, I want to say 25 to 30 iterations of the drawings themselves where we did the 3D mapping and saw volumes of fill. And so we came up with the optimal design, in our opinion, where we are minimizing how much cut and how much fill there are. We are utilizing surface parking as much as possible. The reason why we're utilizing surface parking is because we don't want to blast. There inevitably will be some blasting, and that blasting is not to go down into a parkade, but that blasting is to, create, smoothness. Because when you have topography that's kind of going like this, there are undulations. So there is going to be some localized areas where there are blasting, but we have intentionally, in our, I think we have something like 16 test pits across the property. So we have intentionally, in areas where we've encountered bedrock, we've intentionally kept the building away from there to minimize blasting. So, and then with that being said, with respect to, all the community, like the church, the school, and also the park and all that sort of stuff. During construction, we do implement things like, blast monitoring, vibration monitoring, and all that sort of things. And so all those things will be implemented. And also, it's one of those things where rental housing is becoming more and more like there are so many rental projects that are being shelved right now. And they're being shelved because they're no longer economically viable. They're not economically viable because a rental project essentially will only get approved by CMHC if it makes sense on paper financially. And in order for it to make sense on paper, they basically look at your cost and then, and then cost versus what the building's worth. And the worth of the building is based strictly on rental, nothing else. So I mean, it's one of those things where we want to do everything we can while still being able to finance the project. Because if we cannot finance the project, we cannot deliver rental housing. And I think, essentially when we first took on this project, it was with the notion that, we read so many articles about the rental shortage on the Sunshine Coast. We went to restaurants with my wife and kids and we'd hear people, on tables talking about the rental shortage. We've spoken to, like teachers, how there's a shortage of staff.
I think we all agree with you. There's a lot of shortage of rental housing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we want to do what we can to bring that housing here, but again, in order for us to do that, it really has to be viable. Otherwise we can't.
Very good.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, appreciate that. Thanks. Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes,
please.
thank you through the chair. I question really how affordable units are, because I did notice with the Lions development that they were permitted to have unlimited assets. Their income is one thing, but they could have unlimited assets. So I would like to see units be deeply affordable for people that don't have a lot of assets and do actually have a low income. And that's by no means guaranteed here. Also, the rental market, we don't know who will be renting this. It may not be locals that need places. It could be anybody who has the money to want to rent here and have a place. So there's no guarantee that it won't be really even STRs in the future. Who knows? Also, there's a large site behind it. I think we need a neighborhood plan to incorporate some overall planning for the area instead of just doing spot zoning. I mean, to me, in this case, it's almost the worst kind of spot zoning you could possibly have. To put something that is 3 times the base rate of the density that's normal, to just plop it on this property in the name of rental housing. I just think that's not appropriate at this time. Also, it's going to be done over 2 phases. So that means the blasting, the building, we don't know how long it will really take, and it could be quite a very long disruption to.
Councilman McLaughlin, I'm going to interrupt you because these are things that'll come back as we get
Well,
into them.
I would still
No,
like to
that's-
see it deferred because I don't believe it should come back at this time. Because of course, the most important thing is, and I'd like to know how many units of housing, affordable or rental or social or apartment type condominium housing we have on the books that are already approved, that are not built. The tally is getting higher and higher. And the citizens I talked to are getting very upset that we're approving more and more development when we don't necessarily have
The
water
water,
this year
very
for
good.
even the residents.
Okay,
And it's
thank
a
you.
critical
We've heard that.
emergency.
Thank you.
Well,
We don't
it's-
need more speeches. Okay?
Well,
Thank you. Okay, anything else? Councillor Toth?
Thank you. I do hear the concerns about various components of the project. However, today none of it's germane to what's actually on the floor. I think downtown is where our neighborhoods want us to put density and doesn't get a whole lot closer to downtown than this. So I'm actually completely in favor of the recommendations that are here as presented. You know, whether something's going to be blasted or mechanically hammered out, or whether, you know, all of that stuff is going to come forward through development process.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion for recommendations 1 to 5. One more thing, please.
One more quick thing. If we pass these recommendations, I am going to move an additional recommendation that prior to second reading, the applicant be required to hold a second public information session. Just now that it's getting more out there, I think it'd be a good opportunity here.
I think that's a good idea. Good for everybody. We'll answer some of the questions and we'll get a better sense of what the public does feel about it. So, okay. So we have a motion though first before us, items 1 to 5 is written on page 40. Yeah, yep.
So I've listed my concerns. Other council members have heard them and we've asked for more information to be presented to the public through an information meeting. I'm looking forward to perhaps the information, the drawings that will come to us on the building and some of the rental ideas. Since the beginning of term, I've supported smaller affordable housing, and I will continue. This is an example where I'm comfortable with looking at rental accommodation. The Upper Gibsons neighborhood plan has a number of rental units in it. If you want to look at that plan as a local example. So I'm okay with some rental units coming into Sechelt because we also need that. But I do need more information as we move forward. So I will be supporting this despite my initial concerns because I didn't see enough information. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Call the question, all in favor of 1 to 5 on page 40, opposed, Councilor McLaughlin opposed, motion carries. Councilor Toth.
Thank you. I'd like to move an additional recommendation that prior to second reading, the applicant be required to hold a second public information session.
Okay, so that's a public information session. It's not a statutory meeting or anything. We're just saying we would like you to talk. Okay. I'll accept that. Is there a seconder for that? Councilor Inkster seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Yeah, sorry. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Councillor Shepherd is opposed. Do you want to say anything about that?
No, I understand your concern, Councillor Toth, looking for more information coming forward. I just feel we are desperately need this type of rental accommodation. I think more public sessions, information sessions, delay the process and the applicant supplying the information will supply the information. If people had attended the first session, they would have seen some preliminary designs on the building. So I don't see what the applicant's not providing, so I don't know why
Okay.
it shouldn't be proceeding with a second hearing.
Thank you. Yep. And and I'll add to that. I agree with that, but I look at it as actually an opportunity to promote what the applicant is doing. So, that's the way I'm looking at it as opposed to a way to change things or, yeah. Councillor Engstrom. We have, yes.
Yeah, through you, and I hope the applicant has a positive response to this. I just think we just need more information. But the question to you is that, when was that information meeting that is being referenced?
In our agenda, it was December 15th. Yeah.
Okay.
Which, okay, it's easy. Anyways,
Yeah,
let's, we voted on it. We'll work with the applicant to make it, sure people can come out if they're interested and, get more informed. Great, thank you. We then have to do first reading, don't we? Oh, or bylaw 492-33. 5535 Shorncliffe. We have it before us for first reading. Council on page 46. Moved. Is there a seconder? And any further discussion? All in favor of first reading? Yes. Opposed? Councillor McLaughlin is opposed. The motion carries. Great. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. Allen. Oops. Oh. Okay, we'll do the bylaw number 58006. And again, this is before us for first reading. Moved and seconded, Councillor Shepherd. Any discussion? All in favor of first reading of this? This is on page 47. Councillor Inkster, you're here. So I'll ask again, all in favor of opposed, Councillor McLaughlin opposed, the motion carries. Right. Great, thank you. So now we move to item 9.2, starting on page 97. Council, I guess, first of all, anything that staff would like to supplement to a very wholesome report? Mr. Allen, are you doing this or? Your point, oh, right.
Yes. Ms. Stepovic will start. and
Yes.
Happy to answer
Great,
questions.
thank you. Thank you, Ms. Stepovic.
Good evening. Thank you, Your Worship. The staff report summarizes 8 applications for temporary use permits for short-term rental on properties where the operator does not reside. Those are type 3 under our STR business regulatory framework. The 8 applications are the second and final batch being considered for 2023. So in evaluating the applications, the staff review committee used the decision-making matrix that was previously endorsed by council. This was to provide a consistent and transparent review. The scoring is based on factors such as the complaints history, location in relation to other STRs that have been approved, management plan, a guest safety plan, parking plan, and evaluation of parking availability, and finally, overall neighborhood fit. So staff subtracted or added a set number of points for each scoring category, and those are detailed in the evaluation sheets for each application. Attached to the report is also an example of the temporary use permit with conditions. Staff recommend 5 of them be denied, and that 3 could be approved subject to conditions to be met by before the TUP might be issued. And so we're looking for council to decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Counselor Todd.
Thank you. Actually had some technical issues accessing this part of my agenda, so by the time I got through the STR addendum, I was really surprised to see that it pretty much lined up with the staff recommendations. But I did have just a really high level question for staff. Almost all of these have secondary suites identified that would need to be legalized or locked off or discontinued or what have you. So I just want a super high level overview on what a property owner's path to compliance would look like for those secondary units. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Allen gets the first crack.
Sure. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Because what we don't want basically are motel-like units of multiple suites within. So then the suite that the owners may use on occasion would have to be completely separate. It'd have to qualify as a suite for building code. The zoning bylaw would allow a suite. But to create a suite, it's primarily about safety, access, egress, fire detectors, CO2, and so forth, are the primary considerations in that regard. It does allow for the potential for a short-term rental type 3 to evolve into a type 2 in the future if that suite is there and the owner does decide to move in. So there are some factors there, but fundamentally, we want to ensure that we have a singular unit that's being rented out in a type 3 scenario.
But I think the question was as much, how do you qualify if you've got one that's not already officially 2 separate units? So there's things like fire separation, I assume. And you mentioned CO2 and
Primarily building safety.
Yeah.
Because the zoning would allow a suite in any dwelling, so it's not as complex as needing to change the zoning. It's about life safety factors.
I want to make sure we council understands, is that put a couple of smoke alarms in and we're okay, or is there more, is this a big expensive job for a homeowner?
For the most part, it's okay. We've had our review committee of planning staff and building officials in the last several months going through this. Primarily, if one didn't have certain requirements, then there was a list of what could be done to be achieved. This is under the presumption that nobody has a 4-foot doorway they have to crawl under to get into an unsafe space. It's just a part of a dwelling.
Right.
And for the most part, yes, it can be achieved.
Can be achieved.
In a proper dwelling suite in a proper dwelling can be achieved with limited concern.
Limited cost?
Yes.
This is really what I was asking. Okay. 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 Question, Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you through the chair. Just to follow up on that. So does our planning department offer service to do that? Because,
Well, you have a building permit, you would apply for.
because it doesn't
to
sound
me-
like
to
those
me,
are going to
please.
be to code, fully to code.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Please, to me. So they would have, I know that they would need a building permit, and then there would be inspections to that building permit prior to a final occupancy. There is a process that the homeowner would have to follow.
I've been told by contractors on the coast that we have a lot of illegal suites.
That's hearsay.
Well, we do not have a lot of permitted suites. You can look on MLS and see how many are not authorized suites. There's,
Okay.
All
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, take off.
Thank you. Another question. The public comments that came in, I recognize, personal and private information that had to be severed from them. I was just wondering if our staff could speak to the sort of conditions that would result in the level of redaction that we saw in some of these letters. Some of them are more black than not. So I was just looking for a little bit of clarity there. Thank you.
Okay, anybody? Corporate officer.
Thank you for the question. So the reduction is implemented based on the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And in particular, we've cited a couple of sections for some of the comments just because of the amount of reduction. And in some cases where the majority of the comment is removed, that a brief summary, whether the comment was in favor or opposed to the application, just for clarity. And the intention is to provide as much information to council as possible to aid the decision-making process while following that legislation, because it's there to protect everybody's individual privacy as well. If you'd like me to review the sections from the legislation, I'd be happy to.
No, I think it's more, is there a flavor? I think what you're saying, is there a flavor of what you felt needed to be redacted? I mean, obvious things of names and phone numbers are given, but was there anything that kind of
Yes, one of the items cited from the legislation is the personal information was compiled and is identifiable as part of into a possible violation of law, except to the extent that the disclosure is necessary to prosecute the violation in order to continue the violation. So in that section is where it's defined that anything with respect to any sort of a legal investigation should not be disclosed.
So that would be an allegation. That is an allegation, so we don't publish that because one person's view. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hall.
In terms of flavor, I guess the general flavor of the comments for pretty much all of the applications was negative. Is what we received. Very few positive comments.
Well, that's a good segue into what I was going to ask. So we naturally, I mean, this tends to be the way our system works. We rarely write letters of, hey, everything's fine. We get the letter saying, I don't like it. So what weighting have we given to the input from the public? Because I see some of the changes in the rankings are quite significant. First one, I think the first one on our list went down from 64, which might have been approved, to 51, which is certainly well below our threshold, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, the way similar to the original set of evaluations, I mean, everyone kind of starts out of 20 in each category. But under the new sort of scoring framework that's been described in this report and applied to each of these applications, you can see for the public comments where we're subtracting a certain number of points for each comment received. In terms of complaints, where we have sort of a validated by law enforcement complaint. And then there's a certain number of points that were taken kind of overall, when there was sort of general opposition to SDRs in the neighborhood, and that kind of fitting into the sort of the neighborhood fit piece, and usually around the proximity to other SDRs in the neighborhood. So there's sort of a small number of points taken off for sort of each comment coming in, for each complaint, as well as like kind of an overall flat rate for the general opposition, kind of detailed in the
Yeah.
matrix.
Okay. Well, others comments? What? Yes, I think we need to take them one at a time. I did want to ask you, so if there's a positive letter, did that get the equal weighting? If you whatever you got 4 negatives and 1 positive, do they sort of equilibrium, if that's the right word?
In one sense, yes, I guess we weren't adding points to positive letters. We were just subtracting points. So everyone starts with 20 out of 20.
Yes.
In that category, and it's only from negative comments that we're subtracting.
So a positive didn't count.
No. But everyone starts, with a full score, and then it's only being subtracted if there were negative comments. So you would see in some of the applications where we had no comments, they're getting the full 20 out of 20. Right.
That if they're getting a positive, they're not getting anything for that. So we're not encouraging people, no benefit to write a positive letter. In our system.
I'd- One thing,
Council, it's your wish, what you will. Yep, that's part of the, what your will. Oh. I would like to suggest we talk about the three that are recommended for approval first. The council is on those. Their approval subject to conditions. That would be 2023-04. The first one. Just a question.
Thank you. So if I'm reading this correctly, approved subject to conditions would mean something to the effect of approved subject, with this one property in particular, approved subject to limiting the SDR to one dwelling unit. I just, seeking clarity on that.
I think that's certainly what I've read, and that seems to be a common thread. In some of the- So yes. McLaughlin.
To the chair. Just wonder how limiting that, how that's going to be enforced. How do you enforce that? We haven't got a habit of going there, knocking on the door and saying, hi, how's your SDR?
Well, but we do have a budget, and I think we're in the midst of recruiting for a third bylaw enforcement officer. How it works operationally is not our concern, but would be extra resources to assess these sort of things. That's part of the fundamental part of this program is that we do need enforcement. So,
I think it is our concern and,
yeah,
without
no, I
some
think everybody agrees with that. The enforcement
enforcement,
is
it's not
important.
really going to mean anything. I mean, before we even started this new policy, we had fees that were paid by this type of STR that could have been
But
used
that's
to
history,
enforcement.
so we're.
Well,
let's look
we
ahead.
didn't do it then, so we need to know that it's going to be done now.
So we have a budget for the bylaw enforcement officer. That will address the resources to do more enforcement. So,
Sure, and we can clarify, I mean, the intent here is to have this both as a condition in the temporary use permit. It would be a condition in the business license to very clearly say, this SDR operation is X number of bedrooms. And for something that the Granicus software too, once implemented, will be taking all the online listings and, people are advertising for 5 bedrooms and they only have a business license for 3 bedrooms. I mean, that's something that will be very quickly caught. And something where as we go through the enforcement process of working with property owners to issuing tickets to revoking business licenses, revoking TUPs. I mean, there's an escalating range of rules that are for the district to pursue. So,
right, okay, thank you. Other comments, Councilor Bell?
To the chair, with all due respect, Councilor McLaughlin, I think that the staff have put a lot of work into this, and I want to recognize them for the work that has been put into this. Also, I feel, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm thinking while I'm talking to my microphone, actually.
Good. Talk to Mike.
And so I think I want to acknowledge the work that's gone into this. I know that staff have put a lot of work in terms of setting it up, the amount of time they're put into it, in terms of looking at each one of the applications. We have approved the matrix and we have approved some money in the budget for a bylaw officer. So we have to give this a chance. We have to give our staff a chance.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor McLaughlin.
On to that, thank you, Donna, and I
No,
appreciate.
no, please
the
to
chair,
me
yeah.
and Councilor Bell.
Counselor Bell, I'm sorry. I appreciate that concern. And so one suggestion I may have is on the business license, maybe you could state the number of bedrooms and that, because they're required to post their business license. And that's just one way. I'm trying to think of ways to help them enforce it because I do think we need something.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Okay, council, we don't have a motion. I had suggested we talk about the first recommended one for approval, go through those three, and then come back and talk about the ones that are proposed as denial, but I'm in your hands. And I'll speak at once. Yeah. No, but move number one, meaning so to deny the TUP on 6272 Yale Avenue North. Okay, but I think I can speak for most of council. We'd like to take them individually. So we've got, if you want to move any one of them. Tell you what, I'll test the water. I will move the second one. See if there's a seconder for that. Yes. So this is 2023-04 6240 Gale Avenue South. Before us, so Councillor Tough.
Thank you. In my going through the application forms and the paperwork and accessing as many of the Airbnb or the listings as I could, I had some concern in that this one actually shows the hosts not being the same people at all as what's on the paperwork. I'm okay with this unit balancing, the feedback and that has been received, but it was just something that caught my attention because I don't know whether our application process requires the host to be listed on the paperwork or the owner and a manager.
The manager has to be listed for sure, but
Who would not necessarily be the host.
yes.
Yeah, through the chair, this is something as noted in the last sentence of the recommendation, that this is something we need to clarify too. That the owners have Airbnb hosts that are separate from themselves, and that's something we need them to authorize those hosts. And that would be a condition of approval for this, just to clarify that, so we clearly have anyone associated with it authorized to be acting on behalf of the owner.
Ultimately, we end up with somebody that we can all ask.
Yeah.
Okay with that? Yep. Okay, in the interest of there being 8 of them, any other discussion on this one? Not, I'll call the question. All in favor of DUP subject to conditions at 6240 Gale Avenue South? Opposed, Councillor Shepherd and Councillor McLaughlin. Motion carries. Continuing then, how it helps, I will, you're gonna do which one?
I will move approval subject to conditions as listed for TUP 2023-05 7471 Seashell Inlet Road. I appreciate that it's a longtime owner and yeah.
And no complaints.
No complaints.
Yep. Very good. Second. Any discussion about this? All in favor? Opposed, Councillor McLaughlin opposed. Councillor McLaughlin, can I ask, so this is because you're generally opposed to short-term rentals? Your microphone, please.
I look at them specifically, but generally, yes, I think we have already approved 21 type 3 STRs, which is more than I think originally that was the plan. But I do look at them in case they are exceptional and,
I asked because this one is the highest rated, and even on public input, we got no negatives. So
well, if they don't reside in the province or something, I don't really.
All right.
think that that's true when they say we just write off the interest. They probably built an entire house. I've been perhaps been writing off the entire cost of that house for 10 years, and maybe we'll do it for another 10.
Well, sorry,
Is it-
that's hearsay and speculation.
it's
I'm not
a
going to entertain that.
Yeah.
Okay, that motion carries. We'll keep going. Yes, third one.
The
One we just
TUP
voted on.
2023-11 for
Oh,
5717
okay.
East Porpoise Bay Road. Now, when I was reading through the actual ancillary report, it caught my attention that they had no off-street parking.
Mhm.
So I did a drive-by on that property earlier today. And I think, if I understand the situation correctly, they appear to be using a portion of a undeveloped lane right-of-way as parking. Just the nature of the shape of the road network there.
In the lane.
In the lane.
Mhm.
So just look for clarification if that is indeed the case. And wondering if we should be requiring them to pull a license of occupation. If they're gonna be using that as parking, because
I see a nod of understanding. Is Stepovic?
Yeah, I could just say that we don't know where they put their parking. Yes, there is a right of way there. Staff had some concerns that garbage collection might go up and down that laneway. We need to look into that closer with the applicants and get better information from them. A license of occupation, as you may have seen through our policies, is that it's for hardship cases. In this case, we'd be permitting them and then asking them. So it's up to you to decide how you would handle that.
Okay, so this is one of the conditions. Yes. Mr. Hall.
Yeah, so in this case, I mean, we haven't really discussed, the license of occupation aspect, more the condition around getting an updated parking plan for an applicant in this kind of situation where they have no off-street parking or their off-street parking doesn't meet the requirements of the bylaw. To show how they're going to be managing parking within the public road right of way, noting that even for areas that are in front of their property, it's not exclusively for their own use. We think historically they've probably been using that area of the lane, but noting that anyone could park there for their parking plan to kind of show where else their guests could park in the public road right of way, whether it's in the lane or nearby, and that kind of being the
And so from a process point of view, right now, we would, if we were to support the motion, then we're going to give them 3 weeks to satisfy you and your team that it's workable.
Yeah, they have to submit an updated parking plan within that time period, and that would get attached to the PUP, assuming that it's acceptable. And then that would be, again, part of their business license showing here's how they're gonna manage parking within that. So if we get issues down the road, we again, whether it's, for all the ones where,
Oh, sorry. Your microphone. My fault.
so anyway, yeah, the parking plan would be a condition of approval to be submitted within that time frame, and that's part of the country.
We received some nods.
thank you. Yeah, I also appreciate that this one being located so close to downtown, so close to boat plane terminals, transit, all of that, you could end up with people staying there who don't need a vehicle. I'm happy to move the staff recommendation through subject to conditions relating to the parking as outlined.
Seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion on this one? UP 2023 at 5717 East Porpoise Bay Road. Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Mr. McLaughlin is opposed. Motion carries. Also, we go back to others on the list. 2023-03 6272 Gale Avenue North. Would guess I'd ask staff what differentiates between approval subject to conditions and deny with, but still giving people a chance to come back with, submit more data, management plans and safety plans. I guess the difference is if they come back with them, then you've got to come back to us.
The idea there was to, subject to the receipt of the public comments, that would review, applications where with the additional information that was required, potential approval could be considered. We kept that in there for council to consider if council decided they wanted to support an application that noting that there would be particular conditions that would be required.
Thank you. Now I understand. So if we were to choose to support this, you would recommend support, but with the case here, page 99, at the bottom, could be approved subject to submitting a management plan. Okay. Thank you. McLaughlin.
Thank you to the chair. I'm just noticing on this one that it is a company that is the owner. And, I don't really like the commodification of our housing for like companies to either run a business, like commercial business or like a consulting firm, or to run a STR. I think these are houses that we
Thank
need
you.
for our
No,
own
no,
residents. Thank you.
Expressed yourself. Thank you. Councillor Bill, were you? Oh. Thank you. Yes, okay. Councillor Shepherd.
That we move with the staff's recommendation to deny the license.
Okay, your second there. So. Anything else? Nope. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Oh, okay, so, and I'm opposed to denying. And I asked Councilor McLaughlin for reasons. I do the same to the rest of council. I think that we still have a need for more data, and I'm concerned that we are disenfranchising people who I think are actually working pretty hard to comply with our rules. So I'd like to see us let them prove that they're a problem, or let them prove that they're that they're a contributor to the community. But that's where I'm coming from. I don't propose to reintroduce that discussion. You may.
Thank you. I understand where you're coming from on this for sure. I just, when I read through some of these, the ones that I have the biggest issues with, couldn't even be bothered to submit a management plan or a safety plan. Management plan, who's going to take out the garbage cans, that's one thing. But if you're not going to submit a safety plan, I'm not interested. Thank you.
And that's well. Okay, we'll move on to, I guess the next one's 2023-08 on Skookumchuck Road. Oh, I think I'm right. There was some late correspondence related to this one. Okay. So council see that information that came in? Good question of council.
Through the chair, I mean, there was some correspondence for this and another application, but they were trying to submit information that was couldn't be included in the agenda package.
Because it came too late.
Yeah.
Yes, understood. Yeah. But that doesn't mean we can't consider it. I'm just concerned that with all the emails we get all the time, that whether council did in fact have a chance to see it. Yes. Hmm? We have a process. Understood. Yeah. But this, we haven't restricted input per se, so it's the fact that we got it the last day or two isn't grounds to say we're not going to read it. So it's not a public statutory public hearing. Councilor Powell.
Thank you. This one too had no management plan or safety plan submitted. So I'm perfectly happy to move with the staff recommendation for TUP 2023-08 to deny.
Right, is there a second there? Second. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? I'm opposed. Motion carries. So we then go to UP 2023-12 5944 Skookumchuck Road. Yep, please.
Thank you. I'm just seeking a little bit of clarity because a number of the comments speak to this property not having had a business license in 2022. And I just wanted to confirm that with staff. Thank you.
Staff able to. Anything you can add? Sorry.
It does say that they had a business license in the report. I just wanted to make sure
Right.
because there was that discrepancy between the report and the correspondence.
Right, so they did have a license. Yeah.
I could just clarify. If
thank
we're
you.
talking about application number 12, sorry,
Correct.
yes, that one did have a license, yes. In 2022.
Cool. What we get the big bucks for. Shouldn't be flipping. This is hard work. I appreciate hard, difficult work. Here, this is yeah, on page 102. They're all in one page. Hopefully.
Just my own comments here. I'm not moving anything yet. I want to hear from other members of council. I mean, this one had a petition against it. Due to neighborhood issues.
I'll give you a chance, sir, and just.
So I do take issue with that. I do acknowledge that the owners say they should be moving next door in June. But until they actually move in next door and are close at hand if there are issues, I have reservations on this one. My own thoughts.
I have reservations on this as well, due to the high volume of opposition to it. And I guess I'd point out to council, rejecting the application at this point in time would actually allow the applicant to go to the people who signed the petition and deal with the issues. There's nothing in the process that stops them from reapplying next year. So I'm in favor of the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Any other questions from staff or staff from council? Sir, I'm willing to let you speak briefly, but I'd ask you, you need to hear facts. Yeah, and just 1 or most 2 minutes, please. And we'll divide it.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. I'm here to speak as owner and operator of 5944 Skookumchuck Road. We've been legally operating there since we built the house. Yes, we are seeking approval for STR level 3. However, I want to point a couple things. One is that yes, we are moving to Seashell, to the house next door. It's in the correspondence. That being said, I am present in the house being constructed, and the home builder. And I've been there, I was there, I'm living there on a daily basis. So the facts that I have to say is that, first of all, I feel that the value of, first of all, there is I believe there is a bias on the process of on the decision matrix. Since we have people in favor of our operation and it's not being counted. So I think that's unfair to us. And these allegations of complaints, I have submitted a request under the Freedom of Information Act to the corporate officer to find out what was the determination on how did they come up with the fact that the arguably fact that I have a suite downstairs. I do not have one. I asked for information on how did they determine if I was inspected and I wasn't there, or how did they come up with the fact that we have the intention of transforming our operation to a hybrid mode, short-term and long-term operation. That being said, it will require some modifications to the property. And the cost of renewing this is, it cannot be undermined, but we're willing to comply, to transform this place to allow long-term rental. And so we're seeking approval for us to continue with this operation.
Okay, thank you. So you filed a request for FOI request? for
Yes,
some
I have
information.
not gotten a reply as of the reasons why. And I just wanted to notice that. I'm willing to, we've been planning for a long time to transform this space because we know the need of the community. We know there is a huge need for long-term rental, and we're willing to transform this space. But it cannot be done from one day to the other. It should be a fair proposition that we would be allowed to keep operating, and so we could transform the space and bring
Thank you.
other life to the
Yep.
community.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Thanks. Okay, council. Any further any further comments? Everybody's, you ready for the question? Not seeing. Ready for the question? Okay, all in favor? Of the sorry, did I get a motion? I did. I beg your pardon. Okay. Okay, so a motion first. Right. Okay, and the seconder? Okay. Okay, I'll call the question now that I've got the motion. All in favor of denying the TUP at 5944 Skookumchuck? Okay, opposed? Mayor Henderson opposed. Motion carries. Okay, council will go to 6377 Gale Avenue North. Anything different you want to comment on this one? Councillor Top?
Thank you. No management or safety plans yet again, so I'm happy to move the staff recommendation for 2023-26 as presented.
Okay, the seconder. The other comment? I agree with you. It's confusing to me that whether, anyway. Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor of denying the TUP? I'm opposed to the reasons I discussed.
You're opposed to every one of the
Yes.
denials, is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Is it the same reason each time?
Well, it's a general reason that I would prefer that we be taking a lighter handed approach and verifying, letting people prove that they're good. And that it isn't the impact on the community, not insensitive to the, somebody's bad one, we should shut them down tomorrow. But if they're good and we're missing something in our process, then I have concerns about that. So. I don't know. That part of the problem is you don't know if you're missing something until you discover you've missed it. So, I just feel obliged to honor what I think is the better course of action, but I certainly respect the will of council. Council, we go to 5810 Marine Way. Oh. Council thought.
Thank you. I'm happy to go with the staff recommendation on this. I was just wondering if staff would be willing to comment any additional information on the complexity of this planning and building component, given that they are talking about multiple suites and units, and I would just like a little more context
No,
around it. Thank you.
Who to look to, Mr. Hall?
Thank you through the chair. I guess part of that is the zoning bylaw only allows one secondary suite in a house. And there's also the building code issues, and we only have a building permit for the original house and nothing after that. So the creation of these additional suites, there's no record of permitting for that. So the sort of the zoning bylaw and the building bylaw and BC building code would be obstacles.
Didn't hear the last bit.
Sorry, so both the zoning bylaw and the building bylaw, building code would be obstacles to overcome.
Right. Well, this is very different. This is a structure that is not permitted.
Well, the original house, I think the original house was a 3-bedroom house. We have a permit for that. But the creation of additional suites or units within the house, there are no permits for that.
And so we don't have any idea of fire safety or any of the other issues.
Or the internal layout of the building. We have no idea how any of that came about.
Okay, that's very different.
No, I mean, that's great. That's very good information to the chair. I think the other thing is just is the comment around the easement and driveway access and the parking. That would concern me, even in its current state, and looking at any, to expand that wouldn't make sense to me.
Right.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, it's a deal breaker for me. Okay, did I get a motion? I did get a motion, and I got a second. To deny as staff's recommendation. So TUP 2023-M. Okay, all in favor of denial. Motion carries. All right. Thank you, staff, very much. I know there's a huge amount of work that's been going in on this, so thanks. Great. And then move to Posters Car Club lease. Item 9.3. You can move to the recommendation on page 112. Second. Any discussion? Yes, please.
Yes, through the chair. This is a wonderful annual event. But again, I am a bit concerned about water. And I don't know if there's anything we can do to say if there is a level, whatever, water restrictions, that it should be canceled. Something to talk about, think about, because I just feel that it's going to be the peak of summer, usually one of our hottest summer days. And to go ahead, but with a caveat. I don't know if people are willing to discuss that.
Councillor Shepherd.
I guess just to follow up on the comment by Councillor McLaughlin, maybe that's something we should take up as we get into strategy. If we want to look at restrictions to bring in during times of drought, I think it's something worthwhile pursuing, but no, I'm in favor of signing this letter. Thank you.
Okay, I very much agree with that comment. That what did this will come before us, I think, certainly before the regional district. What plans do we need to have put in place to deal with events of drought and worse? But in terms of this item, we could move not to divert into a discussion about water tonight.
Yeah, I mean, our list of summer events and annual events is long.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of the recommendation on 112? Opposed? Carried. We then go to item 11.1, housekeeping, to release some items from in camera. Oh, I'll get to those in a minute. Let's do this while we're on a roll. So motion to release. Second. Thank you. All in favor of release. And now we'll go to councillor reports. Councillor Toth reminded me he gets to go first.
Totally recognize that I put a target on my back by mentioning that. The only thing I really want to mention right now is that I virtually attended the APC meeting last night. And listened to the presentation for a redesigned project at Seashell Inlet Road and Wharf Avenue. Mix of rental and ownership. So it'll be interesting to see that come forward. One comment that I did hear from the APC is that they missed having a member of council attending their meetings. I guess we've been notably absent from their last couple meetings, and we don't have an official liaison to the APC or anything like that, but yeah, I take their comments to heart. I'm going to try and make it more of the APC meeting. So that's really all I have for council reports.
Because and that's fine. I think we're entitled to go, but we don't typically have a formal liaison role. That's the staff to come back. Yes. But okay, moving right along. Councillor Shepherd, how about you're next?
Well, I would have attended the EPC, I have it on my agenda, but the mayor and I were at the West Seashell Community Association AGM last night. So that interfered. It was about the same time. I do find the APC meetings really interesting to see the developments coming forward. They have a lot of expertise on that panel, so it is a good thing to attend. But at the AGM last night, a lot of resident feedback on difficulties with development, water, short-term rentals, a lot of things that we're hearing in each session. Speed bumps, speeding. I attended the National Day of Mourning for Workers Killed on the Job proclamation, library monthly meeting, and we've heard about the parcel tax meeting. Thank you.
Zoom, Counselor Inkster. I am.
Well, we've sort of pieced off some of the conferences we've been at. I'll say a little bit more about one of them a month and a bit ago on environmental and social issues. I had some of that over a little while. I just wanted to mention quickly on AVICC, the emergency response sort of session. I've asked for more information on that from a local individual who's involved in the AVICC, and I've been provided with that. But I just think that we should turn our minds to forest fires. And we've heard a presentation from Roberts Creek a little while ago. I'm sure the mayor is well aware of. And that's something we should be concerned about. And I'll be talking a lot about that because, and the reason two reasons I think we need to be concerned about it is the climate change. And I think that I'm going to be talking about it because I started talking about water in 2009. Nobody's interested, seriously. So I'm just going to talk about forest fires every once in a while because I don't want the public to come to us and say, how come you didn't talk about forest fires? Because it's a climate change concern, and I'll be bringing it up every 6 months. And I'm glad somebody on the coast is talking about it, because if there is one that starts, we're in a tough situation. I wanted to mention the Ferry Advisory Committee. I think that it was mentioned earlier, and the public needs to know that there were some double bookings in the reservation system. It sounds like most of council knows, and the public should know. And I thought it was on the long weekend, but it may be an extension into other weekends and days. So people need to know to check those. I think it's important that this council, as a concerned ferry council, make sure that we talk about a lot of ferry issues on a regular basis. We all know about the free to travel medical. It's about time that people that have medical challenges that have to go in often have no cost to go into Vancouver for those appointments, and that they can get on those ferries there and back, especially when we get busy during the summer and people aren't feeling well and they got to be in the heat. So I think those are really important things that we're very working with, I think, the province on. Just a couple of quick mentions: finance presentation at the regional district, as well as MFA. The finance, I think MFA was the presentation was sent to council.
You get to hold that because that comes up under the SCRD report.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There you go.
I'll wait.
I'll go to Counselor Bell.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, her.
So I attended the volunteer event, which was hosted by the Rotary, and tremendous to see. I mean, the essentially the volunteer, I guess let's call it the market for now. The volunteer is shrinking, and it's really quite a critical issue for a lot of the community organizations, our nonprofits, because they rely on volunteers to run their programs. So it was tremendous to see the senior center full, as well as the lunchroom, and a good representation of all, as I say, our community partners. And I just want to do a shout out that, volunteerism is just a tremendous way to give back to your community. So if there is something of interest to you, whether it's skills or just a general passion, please reach out to any of these community organizations, and I know that they'd welcome your help.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor McLaughlin.
Thank you through the chair. I did attend Earth Day in Roberts Creek, as I love to do, to see their mandala, et cetera. Even though it was raining, there weren't as many people, but it was still a lovely event, of course. With the area director there. I missed him playing in a band, but I did get to talk to him. Also, I have been reading and finished my book, True Reconciliation, which was given to all of the politicians in the area, including all of us. We're having another water summit meeting, and it was very enlightening. And I think it would be nice if there's some way we could sponsor some kind of book club review of it, perhaps led by the Shelt First Nation, or of course, because, I can't speak for them. I wouldn't dare try, but I would like to have an ability to have us have a open discussion based on that book, in acknowledgement of all that's in it. And I agree that the volunteer numbers are shrinking. The ladies auxiliary at Gibson's Legion kind of evaporated. I was helping out there last year as best I could. And other Legion events were being canceled because they just didn't have the staff to actually carry on the service. So that's kind of sad. I've also been talking to, been approached by some people about not getting donations for clothing at some of our local charities. For some reason, they're not getting them, but so I would encourage people to donate to those agencies, because they do fund a lot of local programs and we need that money to keep those going. Very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I won't take long, but I will acknowledge I did go to the Fire Smart event in Roberts Creek. Unfortunately, I had to go to, or very much wanted to attend, the celebration of life for Tess Jones, co-owner of Rona. And then today I went to Vancouver for another very important member of our community who went by the name of Tuki Angus. And for those who don't know, Mr. Angus was a very, very big supporter of the hospital financially. Unfortunately, he also used the hospital a fair bit. And also a very big supporter of some of our local businesses. So he'll be missed. There were about testament to some of the people that live on the coast. There were at least, I would say, 400 people at his celebration of life in the Hotel Vancouver. Very, very well done. And thanks to float planes and good weather, I was able to do that and fly back to be with all of you. I want to thank Councillor Inkster for stepping up to take over the role as our one of our two representatives on the SCRD. Going to be busy with other things, and yeah, then I echo the volunteer group. That was a great thing, great fun to participate and to walk around, and I got sick after that, so I don't know what that says about anything. So enough for me. We'll go to the SCRD.
I actually have a question for you based on part of your report that you left out.
I got sick part?
No, you getting appointed to the Green Municipal Fund board. I saw the write-up in the paper, and I don't know if everybody knows what it is, so if you could give us the elevator pitch for that and talk to participation from the West Coast, if anybody else.
Okay.
I'm curious. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Read the Coast Reporter. No, this is wonderful. The Green Municipal Fund is a division, if you will, of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And so that is the group that represents all municipalities across Canada, primarily at things related to the federal level. But GMF itself provides funding for sustainable projects, green projects, things that are they're really trying to promote innovation and sustainability. So I've been certainly watching their activities for a long time. We, as I think you will have read from the press release, we were the beneficiary. Their money really helped get the Water Resource Center built, and it's they're very happy. Well, we're very happy. I know that we'll have it paid off in the next 2 years. So it's a great group, and I'm honored. And I think it's neat. Mr. Yates got quoted, and it is a feather in Seychelles' cap to be recognized. I get to go to Ottawa 4 times a year, and apparently that's not trivial to get there in a day. But I'm looking forward to it. There are monthly meetings, and we have somewhere between 1.6 and more billion dollars to use to promote sustainable projects in the across Canada. And it'll be well, and there's more supposedly coming. So, but it's I thank all of you for your support. And yeah, it's one of 6 municipal reps. There are 6 federal government reps and 6 from different parts of private sector and not NGOs and stuff. So it'll be an interesting challenge, and my orientation starts tomorrow. Thank you for reminding me. Now, what about the SCRD?
What about the SCRD? I've just got a couple of things I wanted to report out. The alternative approval process for the funding of the replacement roofs at the recreation centers is proceeding forward. It'll all be advertised and published and what have you, but the deadline to receive responses is going to be July 17th, following a 30-day period for anybody who's opposed to the borrowing to respond. The next water update, because everybody's concerned about the water situation, is going to be at the committee of the whole meeting on May 11th at 9:30 a.m. It's always the second Thursday of the month at 9:30. There's a grant and aid meeting tomorrow, but that's primarily for the electoral areas. And then I think I'll leave the rest of the SCRD update to Mayor.
Sorry. Oh, no,
That's it, I'm done.
not sure what I'm, okay, no,
Anything you want?
no, well, Councillor Inkster, I cut him off from, so you were talking about the finance meeting you attended and what else were you? You're getting oriented on the email distribution list?
Oh, we'll see. I have to talk to you really quickly after the meeting about what the glitch was there. But yeah, tomorrow, we'll get hooked up. I hope it's clear that it was May 1. And I know that yourself, you were online for most of when you were there recently, in your last few days. So I don't know what you would say from that, because I was also there as well, it seemingly, other than the one meeting right at the end on 2 o'clock one. Are you saying anything, or you want me to then?
Nothing.
No? Okay. I was wondering if you're gonna take a train to the Green Fund.
We'll move on.
Oh, okay. Anyway, just, and it's more sustainable. Anyway, I was gonna ask about, I was gonna mention the MFA presentation and the finance presentation. That's what I referenced earlier. The MFA presentation was a good one. I think that, don't think yourself was able to be there, but I think, was Councillor Todd? I think he was. Yeah, thank you. And so that was a good presentation. It's available to council, but the other financial piece, which is really important, because I always like to dig into financial matters, is the borrowing capacity. That where they're under their best practices, although their capacity is much higher than they're at, but we kept hearing about best practices. So there's a number of things that the regional district has to do over the next number of years. We know this, so we have to start talking about the financial pieces that are contained therein. And other than talking about water at that table, as I sit there now, and the finances, that'll ask a lot of questions on both those issues. I'm also going to be talking to and asking a lot of questions on environment and sustainability and environmental stewardship, because of the role that the regional district plays in our entire region. So I'll be asking a lot of questions on those issues, and hopefully if they're not up where we need them to be, I'll be asking for us to talk more about that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I think it's getting late, so we will move to correspondence. Unless I've missed something. So we got 2 items, council. One is the letter from the Sechelt Fire Protection District. I think that's for us for information. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about? Okay, it's fairly self-explanatory. It was unsolicited, and it makes for sober reading. I'm sure we'd all agree. On a much lighter note, we have the letter in front of us for support. I would note, even though my signature magically appears on all kinds of things here now, this is a marked draft because it hasn't been approved, of course. So I entertain a motion if you'd like to support. Moved and seconded. Okay, discussion. Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you to the chair. I just had some reservations about this letter going out because skating rinks are not our jurisdiction. They are the SCRD.
This is not about a skating rink.
Well, they need to have a skating rink or two. So providing the facility for them would not be something that we can really guarantee. Also, I just wanted to highlight the issue we had over the summer where, hot tubs and skating rinks were not permitted due to water restrictions. So I'm just wondering if this is the right time to encourage this. Of course, everybody loves hockey players, a Canadian tradition, et cetera. But in terms of use of water and other issues, I noticed we did not support the skating club, Sunshine Coast Skating Club, as much as they had offered. And yet this will take up quite a bit of rink time, et cetera. So I don't know about the utilization of the rinks. I'd rather see a wholesome report go to us, come to us from staff, however they can do it, given it's an
Well,
district
as you
facility.
say,
but-
it's not our responsibility. This is whether we are in favor of junior B hockey team coming to the coast. The issues of who would provide it, I suggest are for the regional district and whether they might be the one to say, we can't do it. But that's, this is about a letter of support. And frankly, I think it's overreaching to start talking about all the other things. Councillor Toth?
Thank you. I actually want to comment that the letter as drafted makes no reference as to where they may play. They could potentially build a private arena down in Langdale with all sorts of water. It's a distinction, we are being asked to support the Junior Hockey Society in their efforts to secure a franchise. And Councillor Rowe mentioned there were 2,500 people that attended the 2 game weekends. So those are league records for attendance. So I think there's a lot of support here for it, and happy to see it move forward.
Great. Okay, since you got the microphone on, we'll go to Councillor Inkster.
I just want to support what Councillor Toth said. I attended them. I think what was great for me to see was what a tremendous community event it is. All ages and kids running around and grandpas and bringing their kid with their kids. It was a tremendous community event. So
Thank you.
great to be a part of it.
Councillor Inkster,
Yeah, a number of us were at that.
keep it short, please.
Okay. A number of us were at the event. It's a very big community. This is not a financial commitment from the district, just shows support for sort of boosterism for a sport where some of our kids who play hockey can continue to stay here and play. It's probably at the Gibson's Ice Arena and they're on the Gibson's Aquifer, not regional water. Most likely, I would be surprised if they have special pipe going into that community for the rink. So just consider all that. I'm in support of these things. I think they're good for a community. Thanks.
I will, thank you. On that note, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, Councillor McLaughlin opposed, the motion carries. And you can remove draft from the letter. Any other items to come before the meeting? Head shake. We'll have questions afterwards. Thanks. Okay, motion to adjourn. Seconded, all in favor, you're adjourned. Yes, now do we need the microphone?